everyone! Thank you for joining the Pioneer Library System today. My name's Sarah and welcome to the second video in our Earth Day mini-series showing you how to make things with Plarn, or yarn that we've made from plastic grocery or takeout bags. If you need to see how to make the Plarn itself, go ahead and take one step back to our first video, but then come right back here where I'll show you how to knit this little basket bowl. So this is a fun thing to do with used plastic, but it's actually quite a serious problem for our environment and for particularly our oceans. According to this book from our shelves, Trashing the Planet by Stuart A. Callan, about 8.8 million tons of plastic makes it to our oceans every single year. 8.8 million tons. One of the researchers that found that figure said, to put that into perspective, that's like if you took 5 of these grocery bags that we're using and filled them with plastic and set them on every foot of coastline in the world. Let's do something so much better with our used plastic and let's make wonderful things with it. So to start your little basket bowl, you'll want about 4 to 5 plastic bags worth of Plarn. And then you'll also want to grab some circular needles. These are size US 10 or 10 and a half. And you'll want the cord to be long enough so that you can do the magic loop method comfortably. If you don't know what that is yet, that's fine, we're gonna go over it. But if you don't, I like to have a cord at least as long as 32 inches. You can also use double pointed needles if you're more comfortable with those. You'll also want a tapestry needle, and you'll want the eye to be large enough that you can put Plarn through it. One about this size works well for me. And you might also want some scissors. So once you have your supplies, we're going to cast on 36 stitches using the cable cast on. So I'll turn the camera to show you that. So one of the first things you need to know when you're making things with Plarn is that each one of these loops that we made, we have to treat it as though it's one strand of yarn, even though it very easily comes apart. So knit with it as though it's this one strand. So to start your cable cast on, you'll want to start by making a slip knot about 6 inches from the end of your Plarn. So you'll do that by using your fingers to make a little twist like that, and then you'll use these fingers in the loop to pull whichever strand of Plarn is below the other strand. So we're gonna pull this strand through the loop like so, and you'll pull to tighten just a little bit, and then you're gonna place that on your needle, and you'll pull on the working yarn, not the tail, the yarn that's attached to the ball, so that it's not quite stuck. You want a little bit of room there. And then you're going to switch that needle to your left hand, and you're going to take your right hand needle, and you're going to put your needle through this loop front to back and bottom to top. So we're going to go in like this and out up here, but not like this, like this. And then you're going to use your working yarn, not your tail, be sure not to be knitting with your tail, to essentially knit a stitch through this stitch, which means that you'll take your working yarn and you're going to wrap this back needle by going up in between your 2 needles. It's not around like this, up in between, and then you're going to use your right hand needle to pull this back loop of Plarn through this front loop of Plarn. Like so, and this can take a little bit of practice, and that's okay. So once you have that second loop through the front loop and on this right hand needle, for the cable cast on, we're going to take this right hand loop and put it back on our left needle by taking our left needle and bringing it in front of that stitch and going bottom to top like that. So now you have 2 stitches cast on. So to continue the cable cast on, you're no longer going to go into the stitch, you're going to go between these 2 stitches. So we're just going to go front to back between those 2 stitches instead of into one, and you're going to take your working yarn and go up in between the needles again. You're going to pull that stitch through like that. Takes a little bit of practice, and that's okay. You'll pull it through long enough to where you can easily slip it onto this second needle. And you're going to do that again by bringing the left needle down in front of the second stitch and then going up between the strands of that stitch. So then you have 3, and you'll notice this is a little looser. So what I like to do is go ahead and put my right hand needle in while it's loose and then tighten a little bit, just a little bit. You want to knit pretty loose with Plarn because it doesn't have as much stretch as a normal fiber. So keep that pretty loose. You can kind of see a little bit of gap there, and you'll keep going for 36 stitches. So once you have your 36 stitches, you're going to divide these stitches in half. After your 18th stitch, you're going to pull the cord through, and then your needle will move into this second line of stitches. And then you're gonna join these two together. And when you do that, you're gonna wanna make sure that you're not twisting the stitches, which means that all of these stitches here need to be on the inside of the work. The working Plarn is on your right hand needle and the tail is on your left. And you're going to pull your right hand needle through those stitches, so that becomes kind of a stitch holding mechanism. And you want to make sure that you still have some cord coming out the bottom so that these sections remain separated. So then you're going to knit with your working yarn. So you're going to put your right hand needle into this first stitch on your left hand needle, front to back, bottom to top. So we're going to go front to back and then up through that first loop. We're going to wrap our working yarn up in between these two needles again, and you'll want to make sure it's pretty close to where this last stitch was on your right hand needle. You're going to use your right hand needle to pull this loop through this first loop, like so, like the beginning of the cable cast on, except now, since you're just knitting, you're just going to let this first loop drop off of your first needle, like that. And then you're going to pull to tighten and make sure that there's not a lot of give between that stitch and the stitches that it's coming from, and you'll keep going. So we're going to go front to back and bottom to top through the second, and then you're going to wrap your working yarn up in between the needles, pull that loop through the first loop, and then drop that first stitch off of your left hand needle like so. And you'll just keep going until the end of this section down here. Okay, so now we're to the last stitch of that first section. So we're gonna knit that like normal. So front to back, bottom to top, wrap up in between, pull through, let that drop off, and now your left needle is free. When you get there, you're going to pull the cord that should still be in excess over here so that your left hand needle goes through the stitches that were being held on that cord. Once you do that, you're going to pull this right hand needle through the stitches that you just made, and we're going to continue. So you'll keep going like this for 6 more rounds, and you can tell when you finished a round by the fact that you'll come across your tail. So once you've knit those 6 rows, your item should look kind of like this. On round 7, we're going to start our decreases, which means that as we knit, we're going to decrease the number of stitches that we have on our needles, and that makes the item smaller. This first decrease round, we're going to knit 4, and then we're going to slip 1 stitch. So we're just going to move this next stitch from the left hand needle to the right hand needle, exactly like it is. We're going to knit the next stitch like so, and we're going to slip that stitch that we slipped over this stitch by putting our left hand needle down through it, and then we're going to use our right hand needle to pull that second knit stitch through that loop. So then those 2 stitches became this 1 stitch for our next round. So again, we're gonna knit 4, and then we're gonna slip that 5th stitch. Just slip it on over from the left to the right like that. We're gonna knit the next stitch like usual. And then we're going to pass that slip stitch over our knit stitch here, like that. So again, those 2 stitches became the 1, and we'll continue like that for this round. So knit 4, slip 1 stitch, knit 1 stitch, pass slip stitch over knit stitch. So when you finish that round, or round 7, you'll knit round 8 evenly or without decreasing, and then for round 9, you'll decrease by repeating the phrase knit 3, slip 1, knit 1, pass slip stitch over until the end of the round. Then for round 10, you'll knit evenly without decreasing, and then on round 11, you'll repeat the phrase knit 2, slip 1, pass slip stitch over until the end of that round. And then on the final round, you'll repeat the phrase slip 1, knit 1, pass slip stitch over until the end of the round, and you should have 9 stitches left on your needles. All of this will also be put in the description for your reference. So once you finish that last row of decreases, you should have 9 stitches left on your needles. So you're going to take this Plarn, and you can cut it, but I like to pull it and tear it so that there's a smaller end and it's easier to thread a needle with. Then you'll take your tapestry needle and you'll thread that needle with both of these strands of Plarn. This can take some finagling, but it is possible. There we go. So after you have your needle threaded, you're going to pull this needle through, and then you can use this tapestry needle to take these stitches off, and you'll be threading this Plarn through all of these stitches. So for these next stitches, so that you can keep going in the right order, we're going to pull our needles through so that your point is facing this right side. So now you're going to be done with your knitting needles, and we're going to pull that through and cinch it tight. Like so. And then you'll bring that yarn through to weave in these ends. You could turn the basket inside out at this point, which is actually right side out. So you're gonna weave in this end so that it won't come undone. So I'll go back and forth between these stitches to create enough tension that it won't come loose. And we will do the same thing here. And then you have your little basket bowl. So there's that, and now go forth and make all the wonderful Plarn creations. If you have any questions, be sure to leave those in the comments along with any pictures of the wonderful things that you create. We'll also have a live Plarn demonstration at our virtual knitting circle called Knit Nights on April 19th at 6 p.m. The link where you register for that will be in the description. Be sure to check out all of our wonderful upcycling and repurposing resources on our shelves, as well as on our digital platforms, Hoopla and Libby. If you want to see more content like this, be sure to like and subscribe to our channel. And happy Earth Day from us at Pioneer, and happy Plarning!